What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ty here with another Concept Art 2 class tutorial. Alright, today we're gonna do something very basic. I'm gonna go over Photoshop with you. I'm sorry, I've gotta do it. I'm gonna go over the basics of Photoshop, what it does, and at the end of the lecture, hopefully, I would have showed you how to make some of your own brushes, some of your own custom brushes, how to use them, and the different ways that people kind of customize their brushes and tools inside of Photoshop. All right, so let's dive right in. Are you guys ready? Let's dive in. All right. So once you open up Photoshop, you've clicked the Photoshop button. When I was coming up, you used to own Photoshop. It went from like CS4, CS5, CS6, different things like that, and then you could own your own copy of Photoshop. It was the good old days. There are people that I know that refuse to use the Creative Cloud, as it has been kind of named now, and it seemed like their whole point was just gobbling up as much of the related industries as they could. So um, I'm not going to get into the politics of how people feel about Photoshop right now. If you're in any of the graphic design field kind of things and you use Photoshop to either paint, do graphics or anything like that, you know that the reputation that Photoshop and Adobe has kind of garnered in the industry. But alas, there are several competitors now that have come out with their own versions of Photoshop. That's something that we have to also keep in mind. So there's a bunch of new competitors. There's something called Affinity, I think is what it's called, Affinity. They do their own Photoshop version now as well. So that's pretty cool. There's also Photopea, and I'm going to post a lot of these in the resources. I think Photopea is a browser-based one, and it's free of charge. This is going to be a controversial one, but there is a Google Photoshop that I believe is coming out. It's called like Banana something. I don't know. Don't quote me on it. It could be real, it could be fake, but I just saw that Google has their own kind of like Photoshop killer where it's like you can bring your own pictures in, use AI prompts to tell it what to do, and it'll do it. Like so yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on the horizon, right, when it comes to um vector based image editing. And Adobe Photoshop is one of those programs that has been around for a while, right? It's been around for a while, so they're the industry standard, as people like to say. An industry standard just means that people use it most commonly in professional settings. And there are people that have tried to kind of take bites of the apple, but Photoshop has been doing it the longest. Some people would say the best. Some people would disagree with that, right? But it's a program that has met many needs for different artists, 2D artists, 3D artists, right? Concept artists, VFX, movies, right? Like people create posters inside of Photoshop. So there's a lot of cool things that it does. So like whenever you open up Photoshop, I know I always do these little rants, but whenever you open up Photoshop, you're going to be met with this new document file. I'm going to run you through what these usually mean. All right, so these are your most recent items. Like these are 20 of the files that you've created most recently. As you can see, I've created a square format, a lot of different pixels per inch, 300 PPIs, 72 depending on what I'm doing, right? Some things that I'm doing don't require that much. If I'm just making like a YouTube thumbnail or something, I don't need 300 DPI or PPI or whatever it's called now. right? Like I don't need that much resolution in there. You'll be able to see it. It's gonna be like this big on the phone that you're looking at it on. So depending on what I'm doing, right? Because you can start to run into some large file issues, and a lot of you guys, if you're working remotely, if you're using eCampus to kind of log into your portals or whatever, and your files are getting heavy, it might start to slow down whatever you're on. So you have to be mindful of your file sizes. You have to be mindful of how you're using a lot of this information. So without further ado, let's keep moving. Sorry, I keep stopping and going, stopping and going. But yeah, so whenever you open up Photoshop, you're gonna be met with this new document window which has your recent. Then this one's got anything you've saved, any kind of templates or anything that you have. When you click on photo, it's going to bring up standard photo sizes, right? So you've got default Photoshop size landscape, which is like a landscape photography image or photo, 3 by 2. Usually they'll tell you the size, right? The preset details over here. So if it's in inches, you can change it using this drop down menu right here. You can go from pixels, inches, centimeters, millimeters, points, or picas. All right. So those are the different measuring systems that you have inside of Photoshop. Um, let us. You've got landscape 6 by 4. You've got landscape 7 by 5. You've got landscape 10 by 8, and you can turn all of these into portraits if you click this button right here. This orientation just changes it from a landscape to a portrait. So it just switches the width and the height depending on what you're doing. And then this is your resolution right here. You can change it from 72 to 300, probably go a little bit above that. This is your color mode right here if you're working in bitmap, grayscale. It's rare to see people work in bitmap still, but some people don't have that much information that they can use, so they'll work in bitmap form. Grayscale, usually black and white. Think black and white, things like that. Then there's RGB, which is red, green, and blue, and it uses these colors to mix the colors. This is more for digital things that you're doing, right? Like TV, video games, images that you're going to be looking at on your computer, YouTube, things like that, right? Like that's what you use RGB for. And if you are going to be working in the print media, like if you're going to be printing out some sort of brochure, some sort of pamphlet poster, you might want to work in CMYK, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And what this does is it separates those colors, because this is how printers, large scale printers, usually work, as they use the color system CMYK. So you can do that there, change it to CMYK if your final output is going to be something that's going to be printed. So if you're doing business cards or something, well, they might ask you for the CMYK colors of your document, and you'll just click on it, you'll look up the CMYK value, you put it in there, and then they can use that to match it on their end as well. So, and this just refers to the amount of bits of information in there. And if you want your background content, sometimes whenever you open up Photoshop, whenever I open up a document, I'll show you guys now, you can have a white background, a black background, a background color, so you can choose the color for it, and then you can make it transparent, or you can do something custom. So this is good for if you're working on like a project that you know you need a certain background for every single shot. Maybe you're doing a shot sheet or storyboards or something, right? And you need a green background or a blue background, or you're going to paint skies every time. So you want that, you can set something up, have it automatically upload every time you open up Photoshop, and you're already ripping and running. So you also have print, which is 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 14, 11 by 17, 210 by 297 millimeters, and then 105 by 148. So this is like A6 and A4 formats, and these formats are like it's like in between legal paper and letter paper. So like it's like a hybrid. I've only encountered it a lot of times in either like legal documents or like something from like the UK or British stuff, you know, because I know that they use A4 or an A6 quite often. From what I remember, I could be wrong. So, um, yeah, so that is how that works. And remember that they always give you all these templates as well that you can try and test out. And I'm not saying like just take it and steal it and pretend like you made it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is learn from what they're doing. Learn how they structure their layers. Learn how they structure their text. Learn how they structure their graphics to make it look more professional. The thing that you guys don't realize is these are resources for you guys to learn how to do stuff. What I would do a lot of the times whenever I got like a new software, new, you know, if they have any kind of tutorial files or sample files, I open up the sample file. I dig through the sample file. I try to see what they're trying to show off using the sample file, how they're getting their layers, how they're labeling their layers. Because if they're willing to put that as their sample, that's probably the industry standard. And if you want to be doing the industry standard, maybe try learning what the industry is doing, where they're going, right? So that's why I always suggest whenever you guys are opening up software you're trying to get better at, you're trying to learn at, just look at some sample files, open a couple of things up, right? Like if you want to know how to make graphic designs, you can download it, open it up. All right, art and illustration. So these are 1,000 by 1,000 pixel grids, 2,000 by 2,000. This is poster, postcard, and this is 1920 by 1080. So this is like standard HD TV, and then this is 1280 by 720. And then there's for web. So this could be like a banner, web large, web medium, web minimum. So if you're creating websites, this could be really good for you to check out. Some of these I've never used myself. So this is for like iPhones, and if you're creating different things for wearables and things like that. So they have all of these kind of templates. So like I wear these watches right here. I'm doing the Shador thing. I wear these kind of watches right here, and these I create my own watch faces. So these kind of things are cool, like if you customize your own things like that. So like even this watch face that you see here, I made myself, right? I did that, and I brought it in there, and I had a template, and I used that to make my own watch faces. And there was a while where like I was selling them on, it was like the Galaxy app and stuff like that, and I was looking at like, I was making like little cents on it. Like it wasn't a lot of money because it was like wearable, you know, it was like graphics. So like my most, I hate to say this, but my most valuable, the one that made the most money was like this Cowboys one I did. Man, it would make like $1 every couple days. It was like a really good like little like idea that, oh man, if you make a good digital product, like people will buy it and people will check it out. So I did that for a little bit, and I have not logged into that account since. I'm probably a billionaire on there now. The people probably bought, you know, but I didn't own the copyright to some of those, so like I had to like pivot to different things. So that's a different story for a different day. Either way, let's dive back in. So the one I probably use the most is the film and video and the print. I use these two probably the most whenever I'm creating anything, and then I'll do my own. So like I usually use probably like this 1920, and I use this just to create like anything. I'll use it to create thumbnails, starter images, different graphics, and I just click it like that, and it'll start off at 72. I might bump it up to 300, and then hit create. All right. If I'm gonna paint, however, right, the best way that I like to paint is either let's see, This is my custom. Usually, I'll do like I'll do like a giant square sheet, right? If I'm gonna do some paint or some studies or something, so I'll do like 5,000 by 5,000, then create that, and then now whenever I want to start to paint, oops, my guy's flipped around. Sorry. Whenever I want to paint, I can start to do so. All right. So this brush that you just saw me use is something I just created. So it's called Sampled Brush 1. All right. I'm going to show you guys how to create your own brushes, and then we will. Your assignment is going to be to create 5 of your own brushes, and then use them to paint something interesting. All right. Okay, so let's go over the interface. We just went through how you would get into went over how you would get into let's see, Photoshop here, and now I want to show you guys how to kind of navigate. I know this is a concept art 2 class, but I do want to make sure that if you, because some people use Corel, right? Some people use different painting software. There's people who use the iPad sketch thing. I don't know, I can't remember what it's called, but they use that, and some people use ZBrush paint. Some people, so for the people who might have used Photoshop in the past, are coming back to it, like, this is your refresher course. All right. So to the left, if you have the default setup, right? If you have the default workspace, which is the essentials, the default, right? Your toolbar is going to be on the left. Your properties are going to be on the right, right? Your properties, your adjustments, and your effects are going to be on the right. So here to the left are your tools, your properties on the right. The top bar is going to be the settings for any of the objects that you're using. And right now I have this bottom right here that is for if I have any animations. You can bring animations in there, but I just click those bars and I hit close on it, and it closed out that bar right there. And because this is the future that we are all currently in, AI has been integrated into the newest versions of Photoshop. So you have to now keep in mind that you can now access that ability to use for some of the painting things that you're doing, to maybe generate some ideas, different things like that. And I know people have different ethical qualms when it comes to using AI, generative AI, to be more specific, that I do understand if people are adverse to it, don't feel like they need to use it, don't want to use it. I'm not going to hold it against you. I'm not going to scold you. I just want you to know that it's available. If you use it for your classwork in sparing parts, and you're not just saying, I put a prompt in and this is my concept, then you're fine, right? If you're in the process of painting and you use it to kind of grab an idea or something, right? There's levels to this, right? There's levels to this, and I just don't want us to be left out. If you feel like you can ethically use it, use it. If you don't feel like you can use it ethically, then please refrain from using the AI features in here, right? So like if you look at the bottom right here, there's this generate image. Let me make this a little bigger. So there is this generate image right here. So you can generate an image just using prompts and things like that inside of Photoshop now, right? And if you click on any of these pictures, it'll take you to the prompts that they generated, that they used to generate. They also own their own engine, which is called Adobe Firefly, and that now integrates with a bunch of different types of AI engines. So yeah, this is the AI portion of my speech. You can start with any of these, and so this is how their AI features work for your concept class, please don't use this and try to turn this in as your work. It's easy for me to just kind of run a filter on it and say, hey, was this created using AI? And it'll tell me it was used. There's AI stuff in it. So, all right. So that is the AI features of the program. All right. So this is your toolbar, your move tools, your marquee tools, your lasso, your magic wands, your cropping tools, your frame tools, your eyedroppers, your healers, your brushes, stamps, your history brushes, your erasers, paint buckets, smudge tools, adjustment brush tools, dodge tools, your pen tool, your text tool, your path selection tool, your rectangle tool, which includes different shapes, your rotation of the view that rotates the entire canvas and not just the layer or image that you have selected. And this is your zoom tool. Right at the bottom here is your swatches. These are your color swatches. You might not be able to see that on my screen. Let me move this over. These are your color swatches right over here, right? If you click this arrow, you can switch between your color swatches, all right? So you also have your default foreground and background. These are your quick mask. This is how you change the screen. And this is your generative AI filter kind of thingy majiggy. All right. With that being said, at the top here, you've got your home button. Boom, that'll take you back home. All right. You've got your shape button right here. This is kind of your history. It tells you what you've been doing. Then your shape tool, path or pixels, your fill, stroke, the size of the fill and the stroke. And let's see your stroke options. So just a line, dashed, pointed, if you want them capped, aligned, and cornered, how their corners are rounded, different things like that. And all of this is selection sensitive. So whatever I select, it will change the top of this information up here. So as I select the move tool, it changes my options. If I select the marquee tool, it changes my options. If I select the lasso, it changes my options. And another thing is, every time you see a little arrow, right, next to, every time you see an arrow next to these, that means that you can hold it down and it has different objects or different selections in there as well. All right. So now let's go over here to the right side of the screen. And on the right side of the screen, what we have here is our color, the swatches, the gradients, and the patterns. And this is where, right, when I told you that you have RGB CMYK, right, this is the visual representation of that. This is the grayscale right here. These are the colors you have. These are pastels, light, pure, RGB colors, darks, lights. And because of Photoshop, if you have like certain swatches or colors and stuff that you like, you can save them and it'll upload to whenever you sign into a machine. Right, so this is your color right here. This is your gradient color node right here, and you can move it around, move up the hue to change the hue of the color. And you can use this color picker to select the saturation, how close you want it to black, close you want it to white, pure. And one of the things I always try to tell people is there's no, on this planet, right, you're never going to get anything that is any of these corners. You're always going to want to move it off of those corners. Work in here, right? Work in these values, because it's getting pure white is impossible. Getting pure black is impossible. So you want to work in these realistic zones for color in the real world. All right. So we've got our swatches, we've got our gradients. You can choose between all of these different types. If you can drop them down, there's different people who've made free versions that you can even upload your own in here. Here you have your properties for the document. You have the adjustment settings. Whenever I click on these adjustment settings, it will populate inside of this layer panel that is right over here. So if I add a curves, right, and let's generate an image. Generate. All right. This is just for show and tell, right? Like this is just me showing you how this works. All right. So I generated this lady and I added, let me delete this. So let me go to my adjustment layer. I can add a curves layer, right? Anything under this curves layer will be affected whenever I start to make those changes to my edit. All right, so I can add a black and white. That'll change the image to a black and white grayscale. And then I can start to affect the red, the yellow. If I drop down this custom, I can then change it to maximum black, maximum white, neutral. So I can then go into the individual colors themselves and start making changes that way. All right, so let's delete all of this that we've just done. All right, so let's go down here to the layers. All right, so in the layers panel that you have over here, the way that let me go. Let me see if I can do a better job of explaining this. There are different types of editing when it comes to effects, VFX, movies, 3D, texturing. There's different ways of editing. The process that Photoshop uses is called a layers-based approach. And what that means is that whatever happens, because this isn't universal, this isn't a universal thing, right? You would think that it works intuitively, but there are programs that do not work this way. I'm telling you now, I've worked for a while in the industry. There's programs that don't work in this way, where no matter where you have the layer on, it doesn't really matter. Like it doesn't affect it the way you think it would affect it. All right. So however in Photoshop, whatever is on top is what you see. So now if I unlock this and if I put this on top of this layer, this is the layer that I see now. It's a layer-based it's a true layer-based approach to editing, right? I can go in here, I can do different effects on that white color, right? Maybe soften it a little bit. But what I want you to take away from that is, because it's a layer-based approach, it's easy for you to think of how things work. And the problem with it is that you can easily get lost in the sauce if you're not careful with how you're layering, how you're naming your files. You can get really confused really easily, especially when you start getting folders. You start having like pass-through folders and different things like that. So what I want to show you guys is, let's generate another image. So what happens with things like this, when you're doing the layer-based editing and you're trying to keep in mind that, all right, everything is on top of everything is on top of everything, right? So you can then start messing with layer-based things like masking, opacity, different things like that, right? So this is the approach to this, because sometimes you'll get into a program and they'll go, oh, it's not a layer, it's a node based system. And when you're dealing with node based systems, let me see if I can show you guys a node based editing system. Substance Designers is a node based editing system. I'll show you what node. So node based editing is, if you're in this program, I hope you know what node based editing is. If you don't know what node based editing is, it's when you have little bitty nodes, right? We'll say this is a node. This has information, right? And this is a node right here, and this has different information. And then we can connect, right? We'll just connect this node here to this node here. Maybe there's like an intermediary node, all right? Oops. Over here. And this node here connects both of them. So now it's like a mix of both of these colors, right? So this would be the basic idea behind a node-based editing setup. So it wouldn't be like layer-based. So you can have hundreds of tendrils, and that kind of just all do different things, and your spec layers over here, your diffusers over here, it's going this way, your paint layers, so it can get really confusing really fast. So Photoshop does make it easy in that sense, that because everything is a layer based system, it's a visually easy process to understand. When I go, I'm putting this on top of this, because this layer is on top of this one, I cannot see the layer that's underneath, right? So if I throw a mask on it, now if I hit B on my keyboard, that brings up my brush, right? And if I hit X on my keyboard, that will flip my background and foreground color, and then I could maybe erase some of this. So maybe I want to, let's do something fun. All right. Let's say I'm gonna go to that mask layer and then just reveal the eyes. And then because it's the future now, so if I hit this and I can go generate fill, and I'm just going to hit generate, and what it should do is it's going to generate something that hopefully can amalgamate this and this. So that's pretty much Photoshop in a nutshell. When it comes to the basic interface, this is your path, your channels, RGB channels. So this is what they look like, all separated, and then all of it together, and then it shows you your masks at the bottom. So now it's generated my my different pieces, and it gives me 3 different options. I can pick one. If I like it, I'll keep it there. All right, so yeah, so this is the kind of things that you can do with Photoshop now. It's crazy how far the program has come with the amount of things that you can do. So let me now show you guys how to create a brush. All right. So I'm gonna hide this layer 0. It's actually deleted. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get my brush here. And because I've selected this brush, I can do different things to it. So let's go to my brush options. Right here, if you click on this, your brush settings, you can do different things to your brush. So each brush head that you have, you can do shape dynamics, scatter and texture, dual brush, color dynamics, transfer, the brush pose, the noise, wet edges, build up, smoothing. You can have it be pressure dependent in the sense that you can have it the heavier you bear down on your color your pen over here, right? The more you bear down on it, the more ink it's technically laying down. And if you let up a little bit or go a little lighter, right, you'll get let me see, size jitter. Let's do minimum diameter. So now I'm just messing with the angle jitter. Alright, so let me start from scratch just to show you guys how I would go about creating this kind of brush. Alright, so I'm going to hit B on the keyboard, and actually let's start with a shape instead. So there's a bunch of different ways to create yourself a brush. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to create this square, maybe round it off quite a bit. I'm going to center it. Alright, that is the center. Let's grab this. I want it to be more pill-like. Alright. So what you're going to do is, if you want to make this into a brush, you'll go into your edit, and then you'll define brush preset, and I'll name this pill brush. Alright, so now I've got pill brush in here. Alright, pill brush, and that's what it looks like. So now if I hide that little rectangle, I can scale this bad boy down, and this is pill brush, right? And just like that, I've made myself a new fancy brush that has line weight. It looks like, right, you see how it kind of goes thick and thin, right? I like that. It's a very calligraphy kind of like brush. So this is my first brush. So I'll call it the Cali brush. Alright. So I'm going to create a different brush. This time I'll use a different kind of method. So instead of that shape, I'm going to paint my next brush. So I'm going to go in here, instead of using the pill, I'm going to find the soft round brush. Alright. And then I'm going to just draw something. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go back to my edit, and I'm going to define this brush preset, hit OK, and I'm going to create a new layer with that plus sign, and now I can drop these as my new brush. And the cool thing about this is, right, because of how it is, it can look very like another kind of calligraphy, kind of like paintbrushy kind of brush. So what I like to do is, this is just the first step for the brush. So I might go into the shape dynamics, right? And then maybe increase the jitter, right? Increase the jitter, increase the scattering a little bit. No, that's just gonna, that's if I want to make it into like a stamp or something. Like if I want to use it for like full, okay, I'll show you what, okay, let me do that so I can show you guys. So like if I have something like this, and if I did that kind of scatter, right, I could do a spread like that. Let's do the count. Let's reduce the count, increase the jitter, and then I'm going to increase my minimum so that now whenever I paint it, I'm going to get different. And you can even do color dynamics, right? You can do it to where it changes based on the foreground texture. So if I wanted to, now I can go, maybe if I'm making these like, maybe let's make it tumbleweed, right? Let's make it some tumbleweed. All right, I'm going to switch between that color and maybe a darker muted brown color, right? And then if this is my floor, right? Instead of, let's turn off the hue jitter, and I'm just going to do the foreground and background jitter. So I'm just doing dots of it, all right? And then, and what I like to do a lot of the times is then go back with maybe like the same brush. I'll throw a mask on it, right? And then I can use that to remove excess. If you hit X, it'll bring it back. X, it'll take it away. That's just the mask. All right. Delete this layer mask. Let's hide this. All right, so then you can still mess with like the transfer of it, right? So that means like how deep, like it's almost like it's throwing some of them in Z depth. It's like throwing some of them in the back, and it's making like a foreground version and a background version for you. All right. So you can add dual texture brushes. You can add textures to the brushes themselves, noise, add wet edges. A lot of some of this stuff can get a little gimmicky in my opinion, but and then smoothing as well. So yeah. Now you usually have a good amount of brushes, but I just wanted to show you guys how you can go about creating your own. So like let's do it with, let me generate go to my brush. Let's go to my pale brush. So the cool thing about stuff like this is like you can use it to like do do and accomplish different things. So like this, if I had like a wall or something that I wanted to add some like interesting, like even like graffiti stuff, or you can use stuff like this to start to generate like interesting things that are happening. So now I can do the same thing. Remember, edit, and then let's go edit. Let's do define brush preset. We'll call this wall markings. All right, now we've got our wall markings one. All right. And you can turn it into like a pattern or something, right? So I've made 3 so far, right? Now I want to show you how I would go about using, let's see, let's make cloud. So if I had an image that I wanted to turn into a, if I had an image that I wanted to turn into, this is not a good one. Let's try fluffy clouds. Okay. All right. So let's see. This is cool. It'll give me 6 different versions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this guy. I'm going to do Control C, Control V. I'm going to go back to this one, select this guy. All right. I'm going to grab this one as well. Control C, Control V. And then 4. Let's do, I think it's 1 that I missed. I'm just using the magnetic lasso. Alright, so with the clouds, what I usually will do is if I have something like this that I wanted to, then I won't take my little, I'll find a brush that's like maybe something soft, round-ish, right? And what I want to do is I want to add a mask. And then I'll just kind of fade them a little bit so that they disappear on the edges. There you go. I'll do the same for all these guys, and you can obviously you're gonna want to take more time and care if you're doing something like this. So I'm just gonna like that. Alright, so now I can just apply the layer mask, apply, apply, and then I'm going to just do the same thing where I image or edit I'm going to define brush preset. I'm going to do cloud 1, Control A, Control C, because I'm that lazy. Yes. Then I'm going to do edit, Control V, cloud 2. Yeah, that lazy. Yeah, really am. Alright, then edit, boom, cloud 3. Hit OK. So now, whenever I'm doing like a painting, right? Let's get a perfect. I've already got the gradients already ready to go. So now if I want to paint a sky, right, I've got my brushes already ready to go. Let's go. Let's go here. All right, you can start to see how some of this stuff could be a little useful. All right. Let's do X. Maybe reduce the opacity a little bit. All right, and then you can maybe start to lay down some paint if you're doing, your landscape or whatever it is that you're working on. And the brushes that come with um, Photoshop nowadays are quite robust, right? So you can even start to look at those and wonder, hey, maybe I can start, see what they did and create your own from there. All right. And what I'm doing right now is kind of photo bashing, right? That's the process of what I'm doing right now. It's called photo bashing. So like here, so if I'm gonna do like some birds or something, so like I might go. Let's paint. Or maybe not. Let's paint like. Yeah. And this is the point where you just kind of start going in the zone and you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and you're you're half creating, you're half inventing, you're starting to put layers under stuff and seeing what works, what doesn't, like what looks good. All right. All right, so now I start to play with like symmetry and what's what's going on in the story, or so a lot of times what you're doing is you are you're experimenting, you're building with shape, you're building with the brushes. So I want you guys to, whenever you've created your brushes, create something with it, right? Like matte painting, landscape, whatever you create, whatever you use your brush to create, make it make it into something, you know. And if I'm gonna bring it this close up, right, I might have to flesh it out a little more. All right. The cool thing about concepts is what you want to do is you want the a good concept artist really lets the imagination of the audience do a good bit of the work. All right. So you're trying to dance. You're trying to it's a dance between reality, right? Concept, imagination. You're trying to give them something to latch onto that feels familiar without having to like spoon feed them and say this is this, this is that, you should like this because you want them to kind of get there on their own and go, oh, this kind of reminds me of this, or this, this looks like this. So that's what you're kind of going for. And a lot of the best concept artists that you'll find, man, they don't, very gestural in nature, a lot of it. um this would probably have to probably have to connect and make sense, because this doesn't really. Right. And because you can't be afraid of going back and fixing what you're working on. Right. You can't be afraid of like, oh, it looks wrong. Just keep going, just keep building it, just little by little. Like I didn't even have any idea what this was gonna be, right? But the moment I started doing it, I'm like, oh, it could be like a fleet of something, right? Like it could be like a fleet, of star destroyers or X-wings, or something Star Warsy. Like that's yeah, I like Star Wars. That's my thing. So um, you can make these guys look like they're going somewhere, or you can build up a story around it, right? Like maybe even like make a big one, make it big giant. Since it's now Star Wars kind of related, I can do even like where's my pill brush? I like this pill brush a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. Let's do let's do giant black structure, and then I can do where my little markings. All right, I can do like all these markings on it, like Ooh, maybe what I can do is instead of those kind of markings, I'm gonna do file new. I'm gonna make 1920 by 1920, and then I'm gonna do a bunch of these kind of like these kind of lines, these kind of sci-fi kind of lines. Let's move the stroke, and then you can make a bunch of little. And if I go Alt, I can drag a bunch of these out. Select these, Alt, Control T. Usually these kind of panel things have like a bunch of just gonna speed this up a little bit. Just so I can go faster on this. There's always a circle somewhere, so I'm just gonna throw a circle. No fill, do a stroke. All right. So the cool thing about Photoshop is that as you're creating things like this, you can also, let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I wanted, I'm like, oh man, I like this, but I want to create a different version. I'm just gonna go up to this little thing, drop it down, go to my artboards, and if I hit plus right here, it creates another one of it. And I can just go back and then drag this over it, Control C, Control Shift V, and it'll paste it right in place. And then I can make like a different variation of this or something like that. So maybe rotate this one a little bit this way. Alright, so these are my two new brushes. So I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go transparent, and then all the way at the bottom, right here, turn this off. What I can do now is I'm gonna drag everything, shift, right click, and then convert it to a smart object. And now I'm gonna edit this. It's doing both. So I'm just gonna select this. I'm going to do the same thing for this. So I collapse everything. Control. Convert it to a smart object. Now I'm just going to drag it over to artboard 1. Hide that one. I'm going to delete artboard 2. So now if I edit, define brush preset, I'm going to do panel 1, Control A, Control C, turn that on, edit, define preset, Control V, panels 2. Alright, now I've got my paneling. I can go back to my ship and then maybe turn this white. Alright, we got all our paneling in now. Alright, so now I'm just using some masking to just get rid of some of this. I want to see if I can find my pill brush. If I wanted, I could maybe turn this into like a floating city or something. Let's do X. Alright. And then just duplicate this. Control T. And move that around. Oops. Control T. Make it look like it's double. Maybe even reduce the opacity a little bit. So it just makes it look a little fuller back there. You might want to. It looks like I want to maybe make it look like a city in the clouds or something. Right? The more I do, the more I kind of put ink to paper, so to speak. I get more ideas of what to do. All right. Just gonna move this out of the way. Sometimes those things can kind of be a pain. We'll put some. I want it to look like maybe, these are. Alright, the thing about stuff like this is the more you start to put like ink to paper, the more you'll start to feel something happening, right? Your imagination will start to go a little more, right? All right. So another thing I might want to do is on the bottom layer here, I want to maybe or add like a dark, and maybe with this gradient filter here, I'm just gonna go to my gradient. Here we go. If you didn't see what I did, I took it from this kind of light. Just gonna go here, cancel on my basics. I'm gonna do black because I want to, yeah, I want a little stormy underbelly kind of feel, right? These guys are either returning home. They don't look too good, right? They don't look like the good guys, right? Either they're coming to sack your city or they're you don't know if they're going or coming. I kind of feel, but you definitely feel something is about to happen, right? And that's the main idea, main kind of calm behind this is like something's going down, right? We've got these guys coming in. We've got this kind of helpless looking, simple, modern tech, sci-fi, slummy looking kind of city going on. And yeah. So yeah, so I want you guys to create your own brushes. I want you guys to create 5 different brushes, and then with the brushes you create a quick speed painting or something along those lines to let me know kind of where you guys are, what you guys are seeing, your not ideology, but like your style, who you derive it from. I have a pretty decent bank of like some older artists, so um, I usually try to see like, oh, okay, that's where she's getting or he's getting this influence from. So let me know what you guys come up with. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Feel free to send me a message. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I will try to address them as soon as possible. And once again, thank you guys for attending the class. Thank you for watching this. The next class that we will see each other, hopefully, we can discuss what you guys have done, how you guys are faring with the project, and what you guys are doing next. All right. It's your boy Ty. It's the Art of Struggle. Welcome to Concept Art 2. This is the first kind of digital lesson. It kind of ran a little longer than I expected, but that's fine. Um, there's no straightforward path to learning. It's kind of goes all around. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Hopefully it wasn't too long. Let me know what you guys think. Definitely attempt these and let me know what you guys create. All right. Thank you guys. It's your boy Ty, and I am